Okie dokie. Cloud Foundry technical oversight. I forgot what this was for a second there. Technical oversight activity for the 17th of January 2023. Agenda today, actions from last week. We'll hear from the Foundational Infrastructure Working Group. Then we'll talk about whether we want to own Concourse, and then a decision on Stratos. I don't think there are any outstanding PRs, but we'll have a quick look, and then any other business. Is there anything anybody wants to add to the agenda before we make a start?
We could talk shortly about branch protection rules. Just.
Oh yes, I'll stick that in.
As there's nothing to review yet, but just to talk about it, whether this goes in the right direction or not.
Yep, I'll stick that in just after the Stratos decision stuff. Right, there were no actions from last week, I don't think. Were there? No, there weren't. So we'll skip that. Let's hear from the Foundational Infrastructure Working Group. Ruben, Beyhan, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we made a few notes. Yeah, it has been going quite smooth, actually. What we're seeing now is that the process is starting to be quite mature. So the people are starting to be really, I don't know, self-sufficient, lying, or like our sync meetings aren't as needed anymore. We still have them, like the weekly meetings, but a lot of PRs get reviewed between our meetings, so like and merged, right? So they don't even like they show up on the board in the done column basically in our meetings. So yeah, we see a lot of that, which is quite nice. So that means that our review time is less than a week, basically, or cycle time on PRs. We are also starting to hit recently starting to hit the limitations of our sync job that syncs the project or the open issues to our project board. Apparently, there's an upper limit of 1,500 open or linked items on a product board, and then we need to start archiving. So across our different areas, we apparently have hit that number, issues and PRs. So we have now a done column, and we can just archive all the instances or open or close things, and now it's fine. But that was I think a milestone to hit that. So it was nice. What else? Yeah, so we have interest. We already discussed that last week, but I think it's worth mentioning that there's now a second area that's within our working group that's interested in a foundation-sponsored CI account, moving stuff over there, which I think is a good thing. That's the UAA area. Also, most of the project boards for the different areas are now being used and up to date. Except for Bosh bootloader, which is not actively being maintained at all. So that doesn't really matter. It's just receiving or in maintenance mode, basically. So not a lot of activity anyway. Yeah, we still have Bosh bootloader, which is a bit of an issue. It's still like there's still no party maintaining it. And we still get requests because like it breaking or not being up to date is still causing other teams pain. And the work to refactor all of that hasn't been prioritized highly enough, I think, at least on the VMware side. So we don't have now the resources to do like a big refactor. But we had this proposal to split out this thing into like just Terraform templates for the different groups. But yeah, that work is not starting anytime soon. So yeah, in the meantime, we're left with this unmaintained piece of stuff that people are relying on, which is not ideal. So I've spent personally a bit of time to just have another release go through the pipeline, but yeah, it was quite in a bad state. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, I guess that's what you have to deal with. Something else that's interesting that we're seeing is that there's now this pattern where we are seeing open source, like people outside of like the two major vendors like VMware and SAP, like people outside of that, opening issues to discuss new features, to have like some feedback before starting the implementation, and then they follow up after the initial discussion with a PR that gets reviewed. And so we have actual contributions to multiple components by people outside of these two vendors, which is quite nice. So we had the Azure Blob Store storage support for Bosh. There's BRFS support being discussed for Bosh. That's the thing Concourse uses. Yeah, and the ephemeral OS disk was another thing for Azure CPI. Yeah, and then Gemi adoption has been good. We haven't heard major issues. So yeah, that seems all good. And I think some environments on the SAP side are using it, and we at VMware also have some customers that are starting to use it. And we are getting early reports that the CLang, so we changed the compiler for Ruby to CLang, and we're hearing some good improvements with regards to performance of template rendering. We are hearing things up to like 40% faster in some bigger environments. I mean, it's a bit too early to know for sure, but that's what we're getting, hearing from some customers. So.
Brilliant.
Anything
Thank you very much.
Leon, anything you want to add?
Yeah, also we had the bump to NATS 2.0, which was a bigger change. We had some small fixes, but looks good. And based on that, we're looking to implement more secure NATS, so shorter living credentials. There is a new feature which Ruben was looking into. Yeah, this was also good.
Like yeah, that's like what it enables us to do, to now like have a feature to have a bootstrap NATS credential where you just use it for the initial bootstrap and then immediately follow up with a credential rotation, so that the credentials that are in the metadata endpoint are invalidated, basically.
Yeah. And basically the project board we have, I like, because it gets visibility on the issues and the PRs we have across all the repositories. This works very well.
Yeah, I think that is actually one thing that the TOC could help us with. Put on their head. What can we help you with? So the thing is, we have some repos that are outside of the Cloud Foundry org that do fall within the foundation. One that comes to mind is the we have the Bosh.io, the one, I think it's Bosh Web or something, like the GitHub org that has all the stem cell indexes and those types of things. And we also have Bosh Packages, which is quite an important organization, which has the Ruby package that's used by all the different releases. Those are still not onboarded onto the model that we are having here. So it would be nice to maybe start rolling out like a multi-org automation strategy at some point.
Or move them to the same org.
Yeah,
very
I was
much
wondering
effort.
if it would be at all feasible to consolidate those groups of repositories into the main Cloud Foundry org, or if it'd be worth it.
Good question. I mean, for the Bosh packages, I mean, it's nice to have them grouped together, but yeah, it's also overhead, right, to have it in there. So yeah, we could think about moving it.
Maybe we can look into what does it mean to move them to the Cloud Foundry org. Is it something which can be done without breaking too many things?
Yeah, so moving the Bosh packages will probably impact a lot of teams because they are like pulling their packages from that repo. So they will have to update.
Yeah.
So that will be something we have to announce.
Does GitHub offer automatic redirects if you move things like that? Then we might get saved a little bit by people's scripts following redirects there. I guess that's not a guaranteed thing. Is it maybe one to take away and come back with a proposal the next time we hear from you?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Cool.
should also be no rocket science to enhance the automation to have a second or third org. Full multi-org support is then maybe something slightly over-engineered, I guess, for our purposes here.
Yeah, I don't know, like if there's other working groups that have a similar thing, like I think Paketo comes to mind.
They don't participate at all in this game.
Okay.
And they wanted explicitly opt out and say we have our processes that works nicely and that's it.
And Service Fabric was moved or not? Are they still in a separate org?
I think it is moved.
I think that's moved
Service
over. Yeah.
Fabric is in Cloud Foundry.
Mhm.
Struggling to keep up typing. Okay, it sounds like we have done a reasonable path forward on the things you need support from. And I guess either wait until we next hear from you in 8 weeks on as a working group rather than here, or I guess just bring it up at any point, either or. Okay. Is there anything else on that we want to go through? No. Okay. On to then. Does the Cloud Foundry Foundation want to own Concourse if that were an option? Who has opinions?
So from our side, time was short. We couldn't discuss this from our side. So
I think we discussed in one meeting, and yeah, the output was more or less we are from SAP points of view, we are neutral here, so we have no reasons to argue against it, nor have we any strong opinion to move it in. It is rather unlikely that there will be bigger contributions from SAP side to Concourse. Just, yeah, to be here clear and open. I think that was the last thing that I understood.
Yeah, I wanted to reach out to the Concourse team. We have team which works with Concourse to check with them. But yeah, that's what Stephan said.
But that's probably still valuable, right? But I mean, neutral is already a start, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there already working group structures and stuff around concourse in existence today? Okay.
They do have some governance, yes. It's more that there is governance, but the number of maintainers isn't that high, so it feels like there's a lot of overhead in that. That's at least one of the why there's a desire to maybe consolidate that.
Okay. Is there an opinion from higher up in the org, Chris?
Nope. If you all think it's worthwhile to bring in concourse, we can certainly do that, and I can facilitate with the legal. And I mean, basically, it's a code contribution, and it's pretty straightforward. There'd be a CLA thing that goes along with that, but it's pretty rudimentary. So really, just up to the TOC.
So I guess this hangs on how much we want to pursue supply chain security stuff, because it really only makes sense to own concourse if we want to do that stuff.
And
is that right?
And that still hangs on like getting a, I don't know, decision on if it's what it will like. So if it from VMware, I still need to get like guidance on if it's gonna be like doing it on the foundation side will give us benefits for our internal requirements, right? And that I still need to get guidance on. That was the call I had with Chip, and I think I gave an update on that. So there's still some figuring out to do on the VMware side. But good to know that on the TOC side, we're basically all clear if the desire arises.
I asked about inside government about whether we're looking at supply chain security, and I only found out today that I got the wrong Stephen when I asked. So I will get back to you when the correct Stephen replies to me. So many Stephens. But the message from the first one was, nope, we're not. Cyber might be involved, but I haven't contacted them yet. Okay, so I guess we can put this conversation on hold until we have guidance as to whether anybody particularly cares about this from a foundation perspective. Okay, let us move on then to the Stratos decisions. So I take it that is this all public knowledge now?
Well, I mean, we even on issue 226, I think we'd said in the meeting today, why don't we revisit this? And let's see if there's any decision. But I think we haven't heard any word about anyone stepping up to fund it. So maybe we just decide to archive Stratos and scrub those mentions from the app runtime interfaces charter.
Yeah, I don't. If we don't know of anybody who is clamoring to have it maintained because they're absolutely dependent on it, then I don't see any reason to keep it about. Does that sound like a reasonable approach to everyone?
Yeah, and it looks like there's actually been a few issues filed on it recently, so archiving would give that signal that this isn't being maintained anymore. Don't expect any updates unless we pull it out of storage and someone starts supporting it again.
Okay, I guess quick vote on that then. All in favor of archiving?
Yep.
That's full. Let's take an action on that. Who is best placed to archive it?
And I guess we could just have a PR to the automation to do that, right? Yep. And then that would correct the source of truth state.
I guess so the charter needs to be updated. The PR is so old that.
Oh yeah, it probably doesn't merge right anymore. Yeah.
So who wants to? Well, you'll need the charter updating and the workflow, the org definition updating.
Yeah, but there's an open PR, right? So we can just do like request changes on that one.
Can you link that?
At the end of the day, Greg would need to, because it's in his working group, right? Or at least.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Actually, even that existing PR
218.
doesn't say that there's a merge conflict. I think it's outside of the YAML block. We never added it to the list of repos. We just had a textual mention in the charter.
Okay. Okay, then
So
it's
that,
really
that
just
PR
archiving.
I think is still good.
If you want, I file the PR for the archiving, that's easy. Just need to write it down, otherwise I forget it.
I mean, like, I think it's better to update or request changes in the PR because that also notifies the people that were in that thread.
Yeah, it's okay. I can do it in this as part of the PR.
Stuck your name down against it. Thank you very much. Right, Stephen, you wanted to talk about branch protection rules.
Okay, so yep, there's one. Where should we start? We had this branch which is not yet, or this PR which is in draft mode, 474, which where we played around a little bit with the branch protector tool. Then Beyhan made a contribution to the branch protector rule to add possibility to configure bypass pull request allowances so that we can configure the bot teams that they can bypass. So yeah, what I wanted to do, there are still some open questions how exactly it needs to be configured so that it catches the branches we want and leaves all other branches untouched. And this is, yeah, we are still fighting with it. But I would just, before I started with the automation, discuss about the configuration that we want to apply. And we have set up one test project. I need to find the chats and I put the PR inside. And I would like to go through this branch protection YAML file, whether that looks good enough to continue just as a first gathering of feedback. So the basic idea was that we have this branch protection YAML file. This file would actually be generated automatically based on the working group charters. The projects from that are listed in the working groups would be configured similar to this branch protection test repository I have here. That means we would protect certain branches. This doesn't work yet technically, but the idea is to have the main branch and all the version branches protected, but not all the others, so that PRs, etc., can be created easily. And we would enforce branch protection for admins as well. And we would allow the bots team to bypass. This repository is configured as if it would belong to the application runtime working group area CF deployment. This one has just one bots team, so only this one is applied. And since there are in this area more than, I think, 4 approvers, we would require 1 review count. And such a configuration would be then be generated for all repositories of all working groups. And if a repository is listed in 2 different areas, then I would simply combine the bot teams, and I would also add up all distinct approvers to come up with a 0 or 1 reviewers required. And in order to override that, you would have the option. So in theory, this branch protection YAML file would be empty. So below repos, nothing is configured because everything is generated. But if somebody wants to override the default configurations, then you could add here a configuration for one repository. And if a repository is listed here, then the explicitly configured data is taken and nothing is generated. So yeah, that would be the easiest solution, which fulfills everything from this RFC, I would say. That would be the idea. If that sounds reasonable, then yeah, we would continue first to fight with a branch protector tool, and if we can convince it that it works like we want. So for instance, seems not possible to configure branch protection rule for a regular expression, which is possible in GitHub, but not with a tool. So it would very likely work out like that you get only after the fact you have created a release 6 hours later, you would then get the branch protection configured per release. Not nice, but that's what we have right now. Don't know if we can make another contribution or maybe we find some hidden options, but yeah, that's not yet clear.
Yeah, I mean, we can, like as an MVP, we can start with just doing the default branch, right?
Would be another option. Yeah, that's maybe easier. That would work.
So then we can at least, yeah, try it out, and then the rest we can work on. But,
yeah.
Sure.
So I would then, yeah, of course not enable it yet. Would do the implementation so that we can generate the files and can we review it, and then we probably need to invite all the working group leads in one of the TOC meetings and then ask about feedback and then decide about a rollout plan. If we do it just for the yeah, default branch, it's maybe easier. We have to ensure that it doesn't impact really any other branch, because that's a bit when you look at the tool documentation, it seems if you take protect false, this then means that all branches, the branch protection is removed. And I don't want to touch other branches. That would be the nicest thing. Let's see what, that's why we try to play around with these include, exclude patterns, but it didn't work out yet.
Yeah. One thing that might be useful to do is we already have like a top level config object, at least in using foundational infrastructure for the GitHub project sync. Maybe branch protection rules could also be added there, so we could just like per working group opt in through changing their YAML snippet in their working group charter.
Ah, okay. You mean the default configuration that is, yeah.
I mean, like just to opt into applying branch protection rules to their working group charter.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We'll just make the meeting with all the working groups lead easier.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds sensible to me. Anything else we need on that one? No. Okay. Let's move on to PRs. To my knowledge, there are none that we need to address that we haven't already. Last call for anybody having spotted any that need our attention. Nope. Cool. Any other business then? Also no. Okay. That brings us to the end then. We have actions out the back of it to update, yes, update the Stratus PR just to archive all that. And we'll wait to hear back on supply chain security stuff to inform a decision about concourse. All good? Cool.
Okay.
Let us wrap up there then. Have a good week, everyone. I will see you all
Thanks, everyone.
See you
next week.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.